Now before we do any additional prep with our other body pieces, we just want to do a little dry fit and make sure that if anything needs to be fine-tuned, we do it now. So I've got my pieces lined up here in order. The bottom angled side, a body side, a top angled side, then the top piece, and then we'll go back down on the other side with a top angled side, a body side, and a bottom angled side. And I'm just going to put them together with some small pieces of my painter's tape so that I can do trial fit. So I'll get them put together and then I'll be back. So I have all my pieces put together with some painter's tape, and I just stuck a couple of dies or something. Use anything that you can put in the back here just to hold it so it's steady and balancing on its wheels. And then we'll fit this on. It goes right up to the paper here, and it goes inside on the bottom, and just make sure you've got it all the way to the end down there. And then you can just have it sitting on the table and take a look at it. I'm going to pick mine up so you can kind of look at it with me. And what I see happening up here at the top, everything seems to be fitting really well, except I think this top part is like a 1/16 of an inch too wide, is what I'm seeing there. So what I'm going to do is take this top piece and trim a 1/16 of an inch off, put it back together, and take another look at it. Now you may not need to make any adjustments, or it's possible you might have to increase a piece. I don't think so, but that's what I'm going to do here, and then we'll try it out again. And now that I've removed that 1/16 of an inch, everything is fitting really well on mine. Now on the cutting guide, I'm going to leave it at the original size so that, because you may or may not need to trim anything off. So do that trial fit and then you'll see what you need to do. So we need to prep a little on our top piece, and to do that we're going to finish one end similar to how we did the bottom. And this is a piece of 1-inch cardstock that I've scored in the center and put 3/8 inch score tape on each end. And then I'll just finish this off by putting that fold right on the end there and then wrapping that around. Now when we go to put this together, unlike the bottom, this end will face towards the head. Now on our sides, we need to make cuts for the side fins, and so we'll measure for that. They go in the, if this is the head over here, they go in this direction on this is the one that's on the side where the light cord is. So we'll measure up 1.25 inches and in 3/4 and make a little dot there. So this is in 3/4 and up 1 1/4, and then we'll measure in from the side 1/4 and up 7/8. So in 1/4 and up 7/8. Connect those two, and then we'll make another line parallel to that beneath it. I have to turn it this way to do that, and that line is 1/8 of an inch away. And then we'll just kind of connect the ends so that we end up with something like that. And we'll cut this little piece out. Now on the other side, we have to put it kind of going the opposite direction. So we'll do these same measurements, but we'll start from the left side. So we're coming in from the left 3/4 of an inch and up 1.25 inches. And then up 7/8 of an inch and in 1/4. We'll again connect those dots and then make a line parallel 1/8 of an inch apart. So we have those two kind of symmetrical spaces for our fins, and with a good sharp craft knife blade, just go ahead and cut those out. Now we'll set this one aside where the hole is towards the left, and this one where the hole or slot is towards the right. We're also going to cut an opening so we can access our battery pack. So let's measure for that. We're going to measure in on the sides 1 7/8. So 1 7/8 in from each of the sides. And that should give you a space in the middle that's 1 3/8 inches wide. And then we'll come up from the bottom 5/8 of an inch. 5/8 from the bottom. And down from the top 1 1/8. So 1 1/8 from the top. And that'll give us a space that is 1 5/8 inch tall. Oh, I almost forgot. Before we cut this out, we need to mark for center and draw a circle with our compass. So find the center point left and right, and the center up and down, and the center of the whole piece, not the center of the rectangle that we drew here. So it should end up being kind of more towards the top of that rectangle. And once you've got that center point set, open your compass to a radius of 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches, and draw a circle, a 3-inch, so this will be a 3-inch diameter circle around there. And then you can go ahead and cut that rectangle out. Ignore the circle for now. That's just to help us place our magnets here in a second. So now I've cut the hole out here in where we marked it, and now I'm going to mark for 3 5/8 inch magnets. Now that may seem like a lot of magnets, but the porthole that goes on top of this has one of the pocket watches attached to it, and I'm a little bit concerned about how heavy that is, so that's why I wanted to use 3 of the 5/8 inch magnets. It may be overkill, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. So I'm going to center one of those 5/8 inch magnets on the top of the rectangle and in between the edge of the circle that we drew and the opening. And then here, this is the diameter of the circle, and I'm going to mark for placement for the others. Now there's about 3/4 of an inch left of space there, and these magnets are 5/8, so you'll get about a 1/16 of an inch on either side when you put the magnets down. So go ahead and install those 3 magnets. Now that we have our prep work with our cuts and magnets and the paper on, we can go ahead and join all of these with some cardstock joining strips. Now these I just cut 3/4 of an inch wide, and I score down the center and then put 1/4 inch score tape on either side. So I'm looking here at the two sides of the fish, and remember that they are symmetrical. It's opposite ends here. So we're going to just flip these and put the joining strips on the back sides, and then I'll put them both together with this top piece, and remembering that the blue end goes towards the head, and the head is towards the side that has these little slots on. So I'll get those joining strips and get that all put together into one unit. Now that we have the sides all put together with the joining strips, we're just going to set it on the top of the body and have it hanging over the back end about 1 inch or so. And then I'm just tucking it inside these tabs at the bottom for right now on both sides. And then with that about 1 inch, I'm just going to take a rubber band and go around it to hold it in place temporarily, and so it retains that shape that we're going to need. So I've got this kind of action going on at the end, because what I want to do now is finish off this back end, and we'll do that by I've cut 2 strips. We'll need one and a part of another one that are 12 inches long, and we'll first start by attaching it on the outside up to that crease, just kind of working your way around like this, and then we'll make some slits and wrap it to the inside. So I'll start by doing the outside, and then I'll be back. And as you come to one of these intersections, just make a snip in the side that's not attached and stop about 1/16 of an inch short. I'm just kind of going right in that seam there, and that'll make it easier to turn the corner as you go around. So I got this far with my 12-inch piece, and I've just cut about another 2-inch section here that I'm just going to butt right up against that other section, and then continue down here. I'll make another slit right there. And when I get to the end, I'll trim it off straight across there. So now to finish this off, I'm going to do the 2 long sides and the top first and get those attached, and then come back in and do the slanted sides. Make sure you get a nice crisp corners as you go around the edge here. So now we can remove our rubber band and just take one last look at how this is going to go on before we start putting glue on, and it should fit inside of our tabs, both here at the front and down here on the bottom sides, and it should come all the way up there to the front, so that we'll end up having a 1/8 inch reveal around here in the back. And this does spring apart a little, I think you can see here, so that you're able to easily get it on over glue. So when we put our top on, we have to kind of work around the jaw circles. It can't just go straight down because of how they protrude. So just kind of hold it a little bit back and then slide it in behind those jaw circles, and then you can get it in place. Now I've got one side attached, And let me show you how I did that. I came and I released the tape on this top angled piece. And then I came down here to the bottom and I made sure that I was getting a good seam right down here at this corner, and take this score tape backing off of here and then get that corner that's right here near the end in place, and that'll hold that together real nicely. And once your tabs are all secured, this tab is encroaching a little bit on the slit, so I'll just take my craft knife and clean out that slit on both sides. So now we have some nice clean finished edges, and we're ready for a decorative paper. So the decorative paper for the sides is cut 4 1/8 inches tall by just a hair under 5 1/8 inches wide, and I do it just a little bit under so that when I put this on I get just the tiniest bit of reveal of that blue. You know, you don't have to have that, you can cut it exactly to length, but that's what I've done. Now both sides get cut the same size, but we treat them differently. So let's talk about this first side with the hole in it first. Now I've tucked my electrical wire way up inside of here and put some painter's tape on it so that it won't get in the way here when I'm going to put my scissors in here and cut to make this release cuts here, so I don't want to be in danger of cutting the wire, so it's way up inside of here. You can see I put score tape all around the opening and around the magnets, and I've also put some on either side of the fin slit down here. Now on the paper itself, I've put a 1/2 inch strip on the top and the bottom, and then on the side that's next to the head, which is this side over here, I've only put a 1/4 inch strip so that I don't interfere with the fin slit, but on the side that's next to the tail I've just put another piece of 1/2 inch tape. Now there's one other piece of tape that we want to put on here, but first we need to give ourselves a placement line, and that placement line for up and down is going to be 3/8 of an inch above the edge of the top angled side. So just take your ruler, line it up there carefully, and draw a line that's 3/8 of an inch above this side, that's the top angled side there. So then what we want to do is measure to see where this hole will kind of be. It doesn't have to be perfectly exact, but we want to put some score tape behind it so that when we cut some slits we'll have score tape behind it and we can press it to the inside. So if you take your piece of paper and you hold it so that it's lining up with that 3/8 inch line we just made there, then you can make a couple of tick marks here to mark where the bottom and the top of this hole are. We know it's centered this way. So I made those tick marks, and I'll just measure to see where they are. And I'd say that the top one is about 1.5 inches down, so I'm going to draw a line that's 1.5 inches from the top. And I know it's a little bit hard to see on here, but I can see it. And then I'll measure my other tick mark, which is about 7/8 of an inch up from the bottom. And these don't have to be exact, we're just trying to get a rough idea of where to put this piece of score tape. And then we'll measure in 1 7/8 inches from each side, 1 7/8 inches from each side, and that'll give us a place in the middle that's 1.5 inches wide. So now I'll just take some, I have 1.5 inch score tape. If you don't have 1.5 inches, just fill in that little rectangle that you drew with some score tape. So now I have some tape behind here so that when we cut this open, we'll be able to push these sides and they'll stick back around in there. So the first thing I'm going to do to attach this side is to, oh, and I also inked on the vertical edges. There's no need to ink on the top and bottom. So we'll remove that, just the piece of backing for the top piece of score tape, and then we'll line that up with our line here and center it back and forth going this way. Only stick it up here on that top angled side though. Now we can kind of give it a crease right there and then flip it up and remove all the other score tape, and then we'll be ready to put it down. Now I always like to take my detail gluer and just put a ring of glue around the magnets. And now we're ready to put this in place. And give that a good burnish. Once you have this all burnished down, measure in 2 5/8 and just make a little slit there. That's the center. So we've got our slit here in the center, and to kind of know where these corners are, this is the scrap that I put in the notes to save. Well, you can measure in and put it 1 7/8 inches in from the side. And then we know we had it up about 5/8 of an inch from the bottom, so I'm just kind of coming right from that where that bump is here and going the 5/8 there. And so that should be about where our corners are. So I'm just going to kind of trace around that, and I think that'll be a pretty good guesstimate as to where to aim. So I've got about a 1/2 inch slit there, and I'm just going to take my knife from there, or you could use your scissors, and aim for those corners. Now you may get right on. At this corner I wasn't quite right on, but close enough. And now I'm just going to wrap these to the inside, and then once you've got that wrapped, you can reach in here and pull out that blue tape, and there's your little cord. And then when you burnish over in this area, you should be able to feel where the slit is, and just use the tip of your bone folder to press it in and just push those pieces of paper towards the inside. You can see where it's located. It's a little bit higher than the edge of the opening here. Remember, it goes at this slant, and so you should, as long as you get it started, you just move your bone folder back and forth to get the paper out of the way and create the slit. So on the other side, the box prep is simple. We'll just put 2 little pieces here on either side of the slot, and then mark the 3/8 inch placement line up here on the top angled side. And on the paper, we'll again put the 1/2 inch strip on the top and the bottom, and then on the side that's nearest to the head, we'll just put a 1/4 inch strip. We can put a 1/2 inch strip on the side that's next to the end. And then I put a wide strip here in the center. You could put several thinner pieces if you don't have this wide 2-inch tape. Just because when we put the porthole on this side, we want to make sure we have that our paper has good contact with the chipboard. And I stopped it here about a 1/2 inch shy of this 1/4 inch, just so I'm not getting any extra score tape on top of the fin slot here. So I'll go ahead and do like I did before, remove the score tape from the box and the top piece first and get it set onto the 3/8 inch line and then put it down the rest of the way. And then again I'll feel with my bone folder till I feel where that slit is, and then I'll put the tip in there and just kind of work that paper out of the way of the fin slot there. Now for the top, I cut a piece that is 3 1/4 by 5 1/8 and inked these two edges. Now I'm not so concerned about the direction here because most of this will get covered up by the top fins. Now I do have some pretty good score tape coverage on here because of those top fins. I want to make sure we've got good adhesion between the decorative paper and the chipboard. So this piece can just get centered here and with an equal overhang onto both of the top angled sides. So there's the decorative paper for the top installed. Now for the angled sides on the body, on the top and the bottom angled sides, I'm going to use 2 of the border prints, and I'm going to use this Sea of Wonders and cut it on the outside of the orange border strips here. And then for the bottom I'm going to use this Sea is Calling, and again I'll cut it on the outside of those orange borders. So I'll get those pieces cut. So I cut out both of my border strips and I backed them with some score tape and I cut them in half at the 6-inch mark. And now I can determine where do I want to cut that to get to my 5 1/8, so I get the elements that I want centered on each piece. So I'll just determine that. So I have my pieces of border cut here, and now for the top and for the bottom one, I'll just kind of center it in that angled section, try to keep it straight going across there, and put one in on each side at the top and then at the bottom. So here are those 2 border prints attached to the upper and lower angled sides.